So the next championship season is now just 1 month away, and I thought I'd throw some early predictions out there for how I'm feeling with each club currently going into the new season. Now obviously it goes without saying that these predictions will definitely change between now and the start of the season, and certainly between now and the end of the transfer window. There's still a long way to go in that regard. Players will be signed, players will be sold, squads will be stronger or weaker from when we're comparing them at this point to the end of the window, so take these predictions with a pinch of salt. But as things currently stand, this is my general vibe I'm getting from each club and where I think they could be there or thereabouts next season. Straight off the bat, as I'm recording this in July, I do feel like the two obvious candidates for automatic promotion, at this stage at least, are probably Ipswich and Southampton. I think they are looking like the best equipped sides, looking quite settled. Obviously, Southampton really quick to get Will Still in as their new manager. Couple bits of business that they've done so far, they're turning over that squad quite nicely, and there's still a hell of a lot of talent in there. Regardless of how badly last season went for them in the Premier League, that's still a promotion worthy squad that they've got available to them in the Championship. Same goes for Ipswich, very settled squad. Obviously there's never really been any drama about Kieran McKenna. There was never any sack talk about him last season, even with Ipswich being sat in the bottom three for the vast majority of it. Really strong attacking options especially. You just feel like even if they lose one or two of those players, we probably expect someone like Hutchinson to move on maybe between now and the end of the window. They're still just going to outgun so many sides, aren't they? So if they can keep that harmony about them, and as long as their mentality's right for next season, I'd really fancy these two to be strong. At the opposite end of the table, as much as I hate to do it, the obvious candidate for relegation right now, or at least one of those spots, is Sheffield Wednesday. Because of the embargo, the mess going on behind the scenes, we don't know what that squad's going to look like come the first game of the season, with players potentially walking away from their contracts because they've not been paid on time. It's an absolute mess. Listen, we just don't know. We don't know who's going to be in charge at Wednesday next season. So many unanswered questions, and chaos, generally speaking, usually leads to relegation. Speaking about another team in chaos right now, that also applies to Hull City. Now, I'm not as bold on Hull's relegation chances next season right now compared to a Sheffield Wednesday. One, because I do still think there is quite a bit of quality in that squad, even if this embargo is upheld and Hull aren't able to spend any transfer fees on players and things like that. There's still a decent amount of quality in that squad to work with, in my opinion. I think last season was a bit of an underachievement. Obviously, injuries were really rife in that squad in the second half of the season. They've got the likes of Miller, Bellumi returning to fitness this time around. But, like we were saying in the case of Sheffield Wednesday, chaos does relegate clubs. It's an unproven manager coming into the Championship as well, and an owner who has been pretty trigger happy in getting rid of managers. And especially if Hull start this new season quite poorly, I just feel like things could unravel for there. A lot could happen with Hull between now and the start of the season, but as of recording, they're also looking like a candidate who could be there or thereabouts. We'll jump back up to the playoff picture now though. Who are the sides who I expect to be fighting for those places, and who will actually go ahead and sneak in there? Well, as of recording, I do think Sheffield United will be in and amongst that picture again. Whether they'll be hitting the heights of last season, getting around 90 points, I'm not so sure. I still think there'll probably be more sales between now and the end of the window. Obviously, Gus Hamer, still a Sheffield United player. I'd be really surprised if he's not picked up by anyone between now and the start of the window. Ruben Sellers coming in as well. He's going to want to put his own stamp on things. I think it could be maybe a bit of a slow burner as they gradually grow into the season, but the quality that they've got available compared to some of these other sides who they'll be up against, right now I would fancy Sheffield United's chances of at least being in the top 6. Whether they can fight for the top 2 again, I'm not sure. I also think that the start to this summer, the transfer business that Birmingham have done so far, I think that they're making a really strong case that they'll be in that picture next season as well. Obviously, back-to-back promotions, it's not unheard of in the Championship. We saw Ipswich doing it. The money that Birmingham are throwing about at the moment, how strong that starting 11 looks on paper, the business they've already got over the line, the business they're probably still going to do between now and the end of the window, that squad is looking really well equipped in my opinion. And listen, I do think expectations will be almost ridiculously high on Birmingham next season, despite being a newly promoted club coming up from League One, where generally speaking, the ambition is survival in your first season. For Birmingham, I don't think that's going to cut it. With the sort of budget they're working with at the moment, I think they will be expected to challenge for the top 6. And the signs they've made so far, I think they stand a really good chance of doing that. And dare I say it, if the threshold for getting in the top 2 this season isn't as high as it has been in previous years, what's to say they couldn't even challenge for that as well? But at the moment, I would have Blues in and about that playoff picture, I think. I would also throw Coventry into there. Second half of the season under Frank Lampard, they were there or thereabouts, averaging almost automatic promotion form in terms of the points they were accumulating. Been a steady start to their transfer business so far as well, strengthening those fullback departments, particularly like the addition of Kane Kessler-Hayden. And listen, Cov went close last season, and on another day, very easily could have made it to the Championship playoff final had things gone a little bit differently for them against Sunderland. It's a squad that I like. Lampard, I think, knows what he's doing at this level as well, and with those types of players, and you would expect that front line to score quite a few goals as well. Still got a bit to do, Cov, between now and the end of the window. Maybe a few sales as well. There's always that interest in Radoni, Van Evak. There's been a bit of talk about maybe he's going to be moving on as well. But generally speaking, yeah, I think I would have Cov in there as well. And you may notice that we've not spoken about Leicester so far, and that's because they are a really tricky one to put your finger on right now, because one, we don't know who their manager's going to be. At the moment, it's Marti Cifuentes, maybe looking like he might land that job, but as of recording, we don't quite know. Transfer activity has been non-existent for Leicester so far. A few players have gone out on free transfers, but in terms of incomings, it's all been very quiet. And the biggest elephant in the room is it seems more than likely that they will be hit with a point deduction. Now, the severity of that point deduction isn't known at the moment. Obviously, we saw Sheffield United working with a marginal 2-point deduction last season, and in the grand scheme of things, didn't really hamper them too much. You know, they were by far and away one of the best teams in the league last season. But Leicester, potentially working with some EFL sanctions, does make me think that they will be lagging behind these two automatic promotion sides. Will that be enough to see them miss out on the top 6, though? That current squad is still very strong, isn't it? I think as of right now, I'd still have Leicester in my top 6, but until we learn the severity of those EFL sanctions, it's very tough to make a definitive call on them, in my opinion. Who are the sides that are going to be just missing out on the playoffs, though? And even the sides who I think could sneak in there. Well, Norwich were a massive underperformer for last season, but I really like the start to their summer, the business that they've done so far. First of all, getting in Liam Manning, I think is a really nice move from them. Obviously, did brilliantly with Bristol City last season. Scoring goals wasn't a problem for Norwich last season. They were one of the most free-scoring sides in the Championship. They were creating chances at will, and while they are probably going to lose, you know, Borja Sainz, Josh Sargent's probably going to be going out, I still like the look of a lot of their attacking options. They brought players in, but most crucially, they've strengthened that defence, which absolutely needed to be their number one priority this summer. And I feel like they've done it. They've got a couple of new centre-backs in, a couple of new goalkeepers as well. Listen, all of those might not be successful signings, but it's a much-needed refresh after what was a really lackadaisical defensive season for Norwich last time around. So if they can iron out those issues, you'd fancy Norwich, in my opinion at least, to be there or thereabouts amongst that sort of picture. Pretty much the opposite to Norwich last season was Millwall, because goal scoring wise, they came unstuck in a few matches. They were one of the lowest scoring teams in the Championship last season, but defensively, they were absolutely spot on. It feels like this will be Alex Neil's first full season in charge. It really felt like he nailed the formula with Millwall at the back end of last season. The squad they're working with at the moment, I think, is competitive at both ends of the pitch. Still got work to do, and we could see player sales between now and the end of the window. Obviously, Tanganga consistently being linked with a move away. Ivanovic as well, there's been a bit of interest sparking up with him in recent weeks, although Millwall will surely be demanding a huge fee if they're going to be letting him go. I fancy Millwall to be there or thereabouts. Whether they've got enough to break into that top 6 at the moment, though, I'm not quite so sure. But yeah, I do rate Alex Neil, and I feel like he's a good fit for that club as well. Few others who I expect to be there or thereabouts. Middlesbrough, again, big underperformance from Michael Carrick last season. They've made that managerial change, bringing in Rob Edwards. Does that give them a substantially better chance of making the top 6 next season? I'm not sure. I think it is not more of the same, because I think Edwards is a different type of manager. We'll see Borough playing different football next season, but like Carrick, but in a different way, Edwards tends to be quite stuck to his guns and stuck to his ways, doesn't he, in terms of personnel and how he likes to play. So whether that works out for Borough in the long term, I'm not so sure. What I would say about Middlesbrough, though, is I think they will be active, especially towards the end of the window. With some of their players who have been linked with exits at the moment, the likes of Van den Berg, Hayden Hackney, who are both being linked with Premier League moves, Borough are going to have money to spend this summer. That may come towards the end of the window, but I would expect them, quality-wise, to be there or thereabouts again. Maybe even I'd have them pushing even closer than that. I don't know. I'd have Borough there or thereabouts at the moment, I think. West Brom, another one. The untested part of West Brom at the moment is obviously Ryan Mason coming in. We don't know what he's going to be made of as a first team coach, but quality-wise, I think it is a squad that will be there or thereabouts. I'd probably have West Brom above maybe all of these sides at the moment, actually, in terms of the squad quality. Looks like Mikey Johnston might be staying at the club after all as well, after those links to Brazil. That move seems to have fallen through. They've just got a new number 9 over the line as well. Fellows could still be off between now and the end of the window. There's consistently links with him in the Premier League, but overall, West Brom are definitely a team that could challenge. Do you know what? The other two sides that I've got from this pack at the moment that I think could realistically challenge for a spot in the top 6 at the moment, dare I say it, I think it could be Swansea, and I would also still throw Bristol City into that pack as well. I think the reservation that a few people have with Bristol City at the moment is the managerial change. Liam Manning's no longer there, obviously. I think they have made a good appointment in Gerhard Struber, but it will be maybe a bit of a transitional period that whole squad goes through. Bedding in a few new players as well. And it does have to be said, the threshold for making it into the top 6 last season in terms of points was quite low. So even if Bristol City performed to the exact same standards in this upcoming season as they did last season, that probably won't be enough to make the top 6 again. So they're probably going to have to improve on last season if they want to go ahead and get in there, which they very well could go ahead and do. The reason I'd have Swansea in that conversation at the moment is I just really like the start to their transfer business this summer. I think they've made some really savvy signings so far. They obviously ended last season in absolutely brilliant form as well. Had the season been 4 or 5 weeks longer, there's a chance that they could have snuck in there last season, Swansea. They've not been shy to splash a bit of cash so far this summer as well. Yeah, I just like the whole vibes going on around there. I do realise, though, that we've got too many clubs in this category at the moment, so for the time being, do I drop Bristol City down to mid-table in about that 12th position? Honestly, Bristol City, Swansea, Millwall, Borough, Norwich, even West Brom, I think are all very interchangeable at the moment. You can put any of those clubs in any order, really, and I wouldn't have too many grumblings about it. Going back to this relegation zone, though, who do I have as my last club going down at the moment? I think there are quite a few of these sides who you could throw into the mix, if I'm being honest with you. Even Hull, I'm not that confident about having in the bottom 3 at the moment. It's just the embargo that sort of swayed me in that regard. As things currently stand, I still think Charlton have got quite a bit to do in the market, so I'd throw them in there for the time being, but I do have to say I quite like the start to this transfer window, the business that they've done so far. I think they've worked on beefing up that back line, which I think is important. I still think looking at that squad, they are light going forward, but you could say that about any of these teams at the bottom of the table at the moment, and there's still a long way to go between now and the start of the season, of course. I think Nathan Jones is a competitive manager, and he'll have Charlton in a lot of matches. They're not the sort of side that I can see coming up from League One and being a bit of a whipping boy where they're, teams are regularly putting 4 or 5 goals past them. I think they'll be in most games. It's just that I think a lot of those marginal games could go against them at the moment if maybe they don't have those consistent scorers. But there or thereabouts at the moment. This relegation battle is really tough to pick between a lot of these sides. I'm not going to lie, out of a lot of these teams we've got left now, it's a bit of a muchness really for me personally. I don't think there's a great deal between a lot of them. For the time being, I would have Wrexham in this part of the table in this relegation battle. Been quite a slow start to the transfer window for them, for all the massive names that they've been linked with. That's not really materialised as of yet. As of recording, they've only made 2 signings. Ryan Hardy, who I think is a crafty signing who could be decent for double-digit goals next season. And they brought in Danny Ward as well, who's probably going to be sat on the bench for them. So in terms of actual squad quality, I'd probably have Wrexham in the bottom 3 at the moment, I certainly think that Hull, Charlton squad's probably about on par with them. But the thing with Wrexham is I think a lot of people are anticipating what's to come in this window. So until we get a proper gauge of what Wrexham's level's going to be next season in terms of which players they can actually realistically attract to them, yeah, tough to make a statement on them. I do think they are being a little bit overhyped right now in a few people's predictions. Listen, that could change if they do want to make some real statement signs between now and the end of the window, but comparisons I've seen with sort of Wrexham and Birmingham, I think Birmingham, justifiably so, are being spoken about like a promotion candidate next season, whereas Wrexham right now, I just don't quite see that. I do think they've got a very savvy manager in Phil Parkinson, though, who will make things tough for the opposition. I think they're going to make the racecourse an absolute fortress next season. But generally speaking, in terms of just pure squad quality, I still think Wrexham have got a hell of a lot to do between now and the start of the season. Some of the teams who I'd throw into this part of the table at the moment, I probably would have Oxford in there. Obviously did really well last season. Still think they've got a lot of work to do in terms of strengthening their forward options. I think defensively, Gary Rowett will have them as a very sound outfit next season, but my concern with them is probably more so at the opposite end of the pitch. Last season in the Championship, Oxford were 23rd for XG, they were 23rd in the league for shots taken as well, shots on target. Those sorts of underlying stats do catch up with you in the long run. You know, goals are inevitable, they're the things that keep you up. But they have shown a willingness to spend this summer, and I think there's more to come from them in this transfer window. Pompey, a side who I really think could kick on next season, but as of recording, I'd probably have them in this region of the table because they've been pretty inactive in the transfer market, and in a league as competitive as the Championship, if you don't improve each season, you're only going to go one way, and that's backwards. Biggest thing that Pompey need to improve going into next season is their away form. They made Fratton Park an absolute fortress last season, but away from home were too easy to play against. Teams got too many shots off against them, and they just conceded too many goals on the road. If they can crack that formula, I see no reason why they couldn't push on to a comfortable mid-table finish next season. But until that happens, I'd probably still have them in and about this region. I would also have my team Preston in and about this part of the table right now. Don't get me wrong, I think we've been really proactive during this summer so far, and I think that what's been the real remit of our transfer business so far has been to improve our defensive options. I think that was badly needed. It's a area of the pitch that we've really neglected strengthening in recent seasons. But even going back to the Gibson edition back in January, the signings we've made so far, which have predominantly been defensive orientated signings, we're slowly building the foundations and the core that I think Heckingbottom will want to work with long term. What still concerns me about this North End side is the lack of goals, and you really can't get away from that at the moment. Dan Jebison's come in as our only really out-and-out forward signing. He's still unproven at this level for me. As much as Osmajic may be a bit of a fan favourite, and I think will score goals next season, the guy's just so unreliable in terms of his disciplinary record. What's to say that next season, he won't be missing another 10 or 12 matches or something like that, and that really could sink us if that is to happen. So for North End, still think there's a lot of work to do, but early signs have been promising. Stoke, I would probably still throw into this region as well. Don't get me wrong, start to the window has been promising. Similar for North End, actually. I do like the look of a few of their pickups. Televirov coming in from Plymouth, I think is a really nice pickup. Sorba Thomas is one that could be great, but could go the other way. If you get his head fully on side, Sorba Thomas can be a cracking player at this level, but can be up and down as well, can't he? The problem with Stoke is they are just the perennial underachievers in the Championship, and it's a question of whether Mark Robbins is the right man to finally break that mould. Since they were relegated from the Premier League all those years ago, they've still never had a top half finish in the Championship, Stoke, and with how competitive the top half of the league is going to be this season, I think they'll have to move heaven and earth to make a substantial improvement on last season. In terms of some of the mid-tablers, I think I'd have QPR in that sort of region at the moment. QPR, to be honest, quite a few of these sides could go either way next season, obviously, because we've got for Championship standards, untested manager coming in. But I do like the look of some of their forward options. Poku's a really nice pickup. The fact they've got Jimmy Dunn tied down to a new deal as well, when it looked at one point like he was going to walk away on a free transfer, I think is really good business. Varane, they've rejected offers for. There looks to be a bit of ambition going in at QPR this summer, so maybe a slight improvement from them next season. Blackburn are one of the sides who I do have a bit of a question mark on at the moment. Obviously, last season they were sort of in this region. A lot of people expected Blackburn to be bottom three last season, but they were fighting it out for the playoffs. I do feel like we will get a drop from them next season, at least based on their current squad quality, the players they've lost. It's been a fairly quiet start to the window for them as well. Still a few players being linked with moves away as well. You've got Kellen Britton being linked with a move away. Interest in Lewis Travis as well. Defensively though, Blackburn were really quite good last season, but this will be Ishmael's first full season in charge there. Still got a few question marks over that's the right long-term appointment. More than anything though, it's just a question of finances at Blackburn, isn't it? Do they have the resources to replace those players who they have lost? Yeah, Blackburn at the moment, a side that I'm really struggling to call. Honestly, Blackburn could be in literally any of these categories next season, and I wouldn't be that surprised. I think at the moment I would have Watford as one of my mid-tablers. It's worth pointing out they ended last season in absolutely horrible form. From January until the end of the season, no Championship club picked up fewer points than Watford did. But they've been fairly active in the market so far. Looks like there's more to come from them as well. Wouldn't be surprised if we get a few sales though between now and the start of the season. Obviously, the speculation surrounding Loser isn't going away anytime soon, is it? Generally speaking, last season though, they were decent at Vicarage Road. Started that campaign out really well. Another team like Blackburn, who I really think could go in either direction next season. Some of these mid-table clubs I think are the hardest ones to call. The last team who I'd then have in that sort of mid-table bracket probably would be Derby. Goals were a massive issue for the Rams last season, but I think they've already been addressing that. Obviously, Carlton Morris has come in. They've got the impending addition of Patrick Agyemang coming in from MLS as well. They've been quite savvy in using the free agents market. Defensively, you'd fancy Eustace to have Derby as one of the better sides in the Championship next season as well, wouldn't you? If those forward signings hit the ground running for Derby next season, they're a side who really could kick on next year, but as of right now, I'd probably have them in and about that mid-table category. Honestly, all of these categories here, nothing's definitive, and you could switch any of the teams around and have them in any sort of order, really. But right now, purely based off gut feeling, this is how I'm kind of feeling about the Championship next season. I'd be interested to know from you guys, are there any major disagreements with how I'm seeing it at the moment? Are there any major flaws in my logic? Let me know down below. Obviously, my final Championship predictions, I mean, no doubt will look quite different to this, but as of right now, that's how I'm feeling. Apart from that though, guys, that will now wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you did go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like, and I'll see you all in the next one.